All right, welcome everyone to today's work session. Our first item of business is employee introductions. First for Public Works, and who will be making that introduction? Mr. Graby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. How are you?
Good evening.
Good.
How are you?
My pleasure to walk you down a quick little story of how we brought on our first ever program assistant for Parks and Recreation. So May 2023, you guys brought on your first ever Parks professional to start the Parks and Recreation division.
Who was that?
Again?
That was me.
Oh, yeah.
From there, we did a litany of things, including bringing on our first ever Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, getting our first ever Parks and Recreation Master Plan done. And in that, one of the top things in there was to bring on more employees to the Parks and Rec division, specifically for programming. So we have hired Tegan Barber, it's like Megan with a T, to be our first ever program assistant. Tegan will be focusing on all programs, but specifically on growing the Red Bank Active Older Adults program. Already within her first 2 weeks here, she has helped secure 5 free art classes from the Chattery, as well as getting ready to bring in 2 different speakers to the group starting in October. And she will continue to help grow and build the Red Bank Active Older Adults program, as well as help out with other events. So you may see her at a Food Truck Friday or at the Christmas Parade Festival on December 14th, 3 to 8 p.m. Or you may see her going around to our playgrounds helping out with high frequency inspections. So I would love to bring up Tegan Barber.
Mm-hmm.
And Tegan is both a Maine and a Red Bank dual citizenship resident, and was born and raised in Maine, and then came to Red Bank, moved back to Maine, and is back over in the area.
Yes. Both places equally, so happy to do that.
Well, welcome, Ms. Barber. Anything else you'd like to add, say, to introduce yourself? Or
Thank you. No, I'm super excited to be here. I think it's going to be amazing working with this program and happy to help build it up for the city of Red Bank.
thank you. Welcome to Red Bank.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yes.
Welcome back to Red Bank geographically, and welcome to the City of Red Bank team.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's very lovely meeting you all as well. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next employee introduction is for the fire department, and I'll call up Chief Seiler.
Evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
I'd like to introduce to you firefighter Blake Sullivan. He was born and raised in Mississippi, but now calls Tennessee home since 2021. He's a 2016 graduate of the University of Mississippi with a bachelor's degree in exercise science. He began his firefighting career with the Chattanooga Fire Department in April 2021, and he became a part-time firefighter with the City of Red Bank in September 2022. He currently resides here in the City of Red Bank. He is a resident with his wife Leah and their 2 cats, Kane and Libby. Any questions for Mr. Sullivan?
Would you like to give a speech?
Did you prepare one? Did you prepare?
No pressure. Well, so you've been out with us already for a while in a part-time capacity, so congratulations on your new full-time status.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you very much.
That's great.
Yes. All right, our next item of business is probably going to be a meaty one. We have a brief update on the Red Bank Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project with WWTA. I'd like to welcome Scott, or is Scott McDonald here? Okay, I'd like to welcome Scott McDonald, PE, with LJA Engineering, as well as our Community Development Director, Johnson.
Thank you. As you know, I am the city representative on the WWTA board. Mr. Phillips passed that entitled to me, so I appreciate it very much. But in efforts to keep not just myself and the commission, but the public as a whole updated on what projects are underway, I asked Scott and his team to come and to give a brief update on the rehabilitation project they're doing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I'm actually going to turn this over to Courtney Branson, who's actually the project engineer on the design side, and then helping her be Michael Roden, who handled the construction administration and resident project representations.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. The best slides that we're going to go through. first thing I want to go through is sort of a history of the work that's been done in Red Bank over the past few years on the sewer system. So in 2017, 2018 timeframe, there were some investigations done to see what is the status of the existing system. So you can see that you have flows during heavy rains, that sort of thing, but then how do you decide where those issues are? So as part of that, went out and did testing of the system. That includes taking a camera down the system to get CCTV of the lines that you can't see from above ground. That is doing manhole inspections, so popping open the lids of the manholes, seeing what condition are those manholes in. And then that also includes doing smoke testing. So the idea is if you put smoke into the system and see where the smoke comes out, that's where water can get into the system. So we did those valuations in areas of the system that we knew had issues with higher flows during rain events. We call that inflow and infiltration. And so we did those in sort of targeted areas within the Red Bank system. So in 2021, an initial project was completed that tried to target those highest areas where we knew there were the biggest problems. So it's like, we know there are bigger problems. Let's go look at those first to see if we can sort of patch those holes with a little bit of funding that was available at the time. So that project was completed in 2021, and that was approximately $850,000. A second project was completed between 2022 and 2024. That was a more holistic project. The whole area is covered and divided into different basins. So we had called this basin 5, 6, and 7. If you guys have heard any information or updates on these projects, we call that our phase 1 project for those 3 basins. So that project was approximately $7.9 million. You can see it's significantly more investment than that initial project. We were able to go target a lot more issues that were in the system. And then in August of this year, WTA awarded a second project that focused in a different basin than the other projects had completed work in, but it was the last one that we had done these initial investigations in. So that's Red Bank Basin 3. Here's also called our phase 2 project for the Red Bank system, and that was approximately $1.1 million. So this map, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but all the colors are different defects that we identified within the system. So you can see a lot of dots, a lot of things that we could go look at and try to address. Sort of in the middle of this area to give you guys a sort of where this is at, is like Phoenix City, Morrison Springs Road, sort of like the central area of where this is at. So as far as what work has been done already, this map is showing construction that has been completed. Everything in red are areas where we have gone and done work, whether that's on manholes, main lines, or laterals within the system. And then this last slide is showing our current construction project. So we had gone through that Basin 3 that I talked about and identified all of the issues in that area. So that got to about $3.2 million. That funding was not available right now, so we sort of pared that down into what is the project that we put out to bid. Our estimate was about $1.65 million, and it actually came in at $1.2 million. We had some hungry contractors help us get some really good pricing on this project. So that's the project that's about to take place. And then Michael's going to share some information about how we'll communicate during construction.
Thanks, Bernie. So during the previous project, the phase 1 project, we established a really good working relationship with the staff at City Red Bank. We were able to come up with a schedule where every week the contractor provides a 2-week look ahead showing what they plan to work on in the coming week, really the next 2 weeks, but a really tight schedule for the coming week. And we go ahead and transfer that to a map showing exactly which roads we expect to have work going on, so we can project lane closures, road closures, all those things, but really just where they're going to be and let the city know ahead of time. We also make sure that city personnel are invited to the monthly progress meetings, but we have monthly progress meetings as long as the project's going on. This one should certainly be shorter than the previous. I think that's it. Anything else? I think that's all. Go ahead.
Do you mind going back to the first dot slide? Can you just let me know what's being complete, what the red dots are and where they, I know you mentioned Morrison Springs and Dayton Boulevard.
Yes, or like what are the bounds?
Well, or just area, what's been completed.
So it's everything sort of where those red dots are. sort of on the
South of Food
South
City.
5 and
yeah,
6
we
and
got
7.
Mason's 5, 6, and 7. So the bottom of 5 is sort of Taco Bell.
Yeah, yes.
And then sort of 6 is sort of in the middle, Morrison Springs Road, like sort of that area,
Okay.
and then it's heading north. No, I think there's
Up
a pizza
there.
restaurant on the right.
Okay, Lily
Pizzeria
Mays.
Cortile. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's sort of like the northern bound.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And then
Taco
it's-
Bell, the Pizzeria Cortile.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Clarify that.
That's a Red Bank landmark.
So has there been any sort of like after assessment of how effective these repairs have been?
So,
I mean, we had a huge rain event just recently and
well, in talking to Martin too, if you notice some of the manholes that would typically overflow with this huge rain event didn't this last go around. So that's kind of anecdotal evidence that, hey, we're doing a good job of tightening up the system and
That's great.
preventing it from getting overwhelmed. So part of what we do is before we start the work, we do a whole lot of flow monitoring. So we put meters out there, measure dry weather and wet weather. After we finish the rehabilitation, we put the meters back out again and measure again, because we have to have a mountain of data and go do a whole analysis, not only for TDEC to release any moratoriums, but now that WWTA is under consent decree, which went into effect in July, we also have to send that information to EPA as well. So they have to review it and kind of give us the thumbs up to allow new connections.
Well,
So it takes about 6 months, because we have to do that flow monitoring both in dry weather and then catch a couple of rain events in that too, so that we can kind of do here's the dry weather flow, here's the wet weather, and here's the difference between before and after.
We're also, as construction on first phase ended, we go back and review all the videos that's provided by the contractor showing the work they did.
Mhm.
And anything that we're finding that's not quite right is being addressed right now. And there's gonna be a form repair. It's just part of that.
So a couple of questions. So what's the timeline for this phase 2? Do we have like a,
So it'll be a 12-month
construction?
construction project, but it'll probably be done in less than 6 months. It's just, what's happened here all across the country with American Rescue Plan is there's billions of
Mhm.
dollars put out there. And everyone has the same timeline, to have all that money spent by 2026. So
Okay.
it's not just Tennessee, it's everybody. So the number of contractors available to digest that amount of work
Mhm.
is extremely limited. So what we've tried to do with some of the contractors we've had here is instead of them pulling off right after a job's done, whether it's in Red Bank or Saudi or wherever, we're trying to have a list of projects to put out right behind them and keep them in our area instead of going to South Carolina or Georgia or other places. So,
Okay.
and in order to get those bids, we got to give them a 12-month window to really do 6 months worth of work just because they're moving around between projects.
Okay. So with that in mind, I know you said you have to compile a lot of data to send to TDEC and to send to the EPA. Do you have any kind of general timeline on when you all might be able to do that to potentially lift some of the moratorium
Yeah, so-
areas?
So we've got some of the meters out now, we're catching dry weather, and we like to leave them in through this wet period that we're going into.
Mm-hmm.
So once that data is probably completed, depending on the number of storms we get between now and into January, then we'll start on that report probably in February, March.
Okay.
That's what we'd like to do. Now, how long they
Sure.
will take to review it is anybody's guess.
Do they end up having to come down here also? Does TDEC
No,
actually
no.
manually come down and check it? No, they just
No,
look
we-
at the
we-
data
we
that you send
the
them?
Reports and
Okay.
stuff, and then try to do the analysis, show the before and after, and show that we have created enough capacity that we can release.
Okay.
Do you have any track record of how long it has taken other communities to get the moratorium lifted once that report's submitted in the past?
In the past, yeah, it's usually like, if we can show the results they want to see, it's usually within 6 months, but just like everybody else is shorthanded, and there's been a lot of rollover in TDEC, and there's a lot of new faces, and they're having a lot of a very difficult time trying to hire technical staff. So that has caused everything to kind of stack up. And then remember all those projects I talked about and all that ARP money, they're also part and parcel of all that too. So their reviews are taking a while. And I feel for them, I hate to, we're having trouble hiring people just like everybody else is. So yeah.
And like you said, with the ARPA funds and the number of communities doing sewer work, I'm sure that their reviews, the number and volume of reviews that they have
That's
to
right.
review has gone way up as well.
It is, they've got more work than they've ever had and fewer people.
So would you say it's accurate that if all goes according to plan, a best case scenario might be we could look at maybe having the moratorium lifted towards the end of next year?
That's, would be the goal, if we can do that, yes, that would be the goal. Because along with the TDEC stuff, we have, we have a schedule now that we have to meet with EPA, so we have to show progress, and we're not too far away from that first 5-year check-in, so they're gonna kind of hold us to those flow numbers, and they want to see it, so we've got to be making progress towards that. But, not to speak for WWTA, but we are the program managers for them, and they're working in every system they own. There's Red Bank, there's Signal, there's Saudi Daisy, there's been Lookout Mountain, and of course East Ridge is, so there's just a lot of moving parts, and they're having to spend it all on that schedule and try to meet a lot of different deadlines. And, hats off to the board, Pete and Leslie that have been on there representing and, fighting for that funding money and stuff like that. That's helped. That's helped keep that board moving and getting ahead of the game, staying ahead.
I'm glad to hear that. So just to confirm, there was no known overflows with this last rainfall event?
I did not hear any.
I did
report.
verify with WWTA
Yeah.
today, we were on no overflows in this past storm.
Very
Because
good.
Linden Avenue is usually the
Yes,
one that pops
it
off
is.
right there.
Yeah.
And, if we,
Yeah.
I was worried, I wondered about that the other day during the rain. I was like, I wonder.
Yeah.
If, because it's all about infiltration. If we keep it out, then,
My amateur weather folks say that we got 5 to 5.5 inches here. So if we're able to avoid any overflows with that, that's a good step in the right direction.
And just to clarify for everybody, this is the sanitary sewer, not the stormwater sewer. And also the last time, if I may, the last time that we had the project that went out, the one right before this one, the $8 million project, there was it was relining, and there were some realignment projects. Is that were kind of cut from that project to
Yes.
get it under the bid? Where are we at on that?
So we've been trying to add those back in as part of these projects. Now,
Okay.
a few of that we were able to, because it came in under budget, because things came in a little bit, we were able to get a few of those. There's a few of those that are still outstanding. Like I
Okay.
said, we're working down the list as the funding becomes available, just because there's so much they're having to do in so many different areas. We're kind of having to pivot from one side to the other. So-
Well, I feel for all of them, but especially for us. I hate to see anybody go hungry. Yeah. That's sweet that they have problems too. But
We're a little
but
biased.
looking after me and mine, I was just wondering. And then we have this other basin project coming in over here. And to be clear, also Patrick did waive a few construction projects for the moratorium because the flow was so little that he did let some of those off the books, which has been a very big help.
My understanding is our wait list has been cleared at least, which is a good
Yes.
step as well. So just also for clarification, the lifting of the moratorium would be for all Red Bank basins.
Yes, it would be from Basin 3 north.
Okay. We did have a particular property of interest that is within the moratorium zone. 3715 Dayton Boulevard is currently 12 acres of undeveloped land owned by the city. And it was a formerly and middle school and a high school before that. So it once had significant sewer capacity at that property, but we were looking at redeveloping it. We're in the process of developing a small area plan for that site. So I'm just that's why I'm pressing for potential timelines, because as we develop that small area plan and bid it out, a concern is if we get to a point where, we've selected a design, we've selected a contractor, we're ready to break ground on that site, and the sewer capacity has not opened up yet, our residents will probably not take kindly to that land continuing to sit vacant for, a considerable amount of time beyond, when the plan has been established. So that would be, that's right there south of Morrison Springs and Dayton Boulevard, kind of in the center of one of the moratorium areas. So that would be, again, hopefully there are many moving parts, as you said, end of next year.
Got one more question. After we start this new plan that just went out for bid and everything, is there other areas that we are going to be in the future? I mean, are there other things that are wantings that need to be done or taken care of after this project?
Well, remember, we did all that upfront investigation work. So everything that we've investigated, we pretty much fixed the
Okay.
worst of the worst. There's some, minor problems there that we're gonna keep an eye on. But that round of investigation work will start again, and that kind of feeds into the consent decree. So one of the things that we had to do with the consent decree, we had early action projects, which that Red Bank 5, 6, and 7 was designated as an early action project. But they had us break the entire system, all WWTA system, into groups 1 through 5. And then we had to kind of call our shots over the next 20 years of exactly which basins we were going to go into and what order. So we had to look at every system, and like I said, there's only so much money spread out over a long area, and there's only so much rate increases that folks can stomach at one time. So we're trying to spread that work. We're working through the worst first and trying to hit those key areas, and hopefully do like what we're doing here and make enough improvement that, okay, we can take a little bit of a breather here and then pivot to the next worst and get a little ahead, and then we can come back to that area as growth, things occur, and start addressing some of those problems and move that. I hate to say it's almost like pushing a logging chain one link at a time, but that's literally what we're trying to do here. And ultimately, it's looking at affordability because, it's a lot of money. The ARP has been great. It's really helped WWTA get ahead on a lot of projects because there for a while, we weren't sure how we were going to fund that. It was going to be some pretty drastic rate increases at the front end of this. So that has helped level those rate increases out because with inflation and everything else, it does us no good to have sewer systems here if folks can't afford utility bills. So we're trying to keep an eye on that as well.
I appreciate that you all are being mindful of the sewer rates because already quite a few families have difficulty paying those, but we know how far behind the maintenance is and not to mention expansion.
Hence the reason to negotiate a 20-year order. When we first started this, they wanted us to spend this kind of money in 5 years, and we told them there was no way. We're talking $50-60 million a year over 5 years. It was not going to happen. So we managed to get that spread out so that will help things, but there's still that. It's a $250-300 million program by the time we get to the end of it. So just a lot of work.
That doesn't, you mentioned it, I was already thinking about it. That doesn't include any additional new sewer
That's correct.
infrastructure,
That's
right?
just fixing what they already own and what's already in the ground. That is not extending anything anywhere.
Okay.
Well, that is a question I had is, we have unsewered areas in Red Bank still. We're only 6.4 square miles and we're totally bounded in by Chattanooga. Red Bank has nowhere to go out. We can only go in and up. So having unsewered, especially large swaths of land that are unsewered is suboptimal land use for us. And we're working on a comprehensive master plan for our city right now, which is going to be looking at a whole rework of our zoning and land use. And there's a big question there where if we're going to be looking at zoning and land use, what does it mean to have unsewered areas and what opportunities might exist for the city to maybe even partner to get sewer to the areas that we need? Do you have any insight on that
Doing
topic?
exactly what you're talking about, looking, coming up with a comprehensive master plan and then setting down the WWTA utilities and how we figure this out. That's really what it's going to come down to, just because with the consent decree, WWTA is going to be locked in. And I can tell you at 9 years of negotiation, EPA does not care about growth. They don't care. That is not their issue. It's fixing the problems. So, that was kind of a non-starter with them in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm always a fan of fix it first.
Yeah.
But once it's fixed, which
Yeah,
hopefully we're on the horizon of that, I'm curious to see, what would be the potential for additional capacity.
Yeah, and with us being linked with Chattanooga, with them being the regional provider, that's an added part to this is, there's flow limits that Chattanooga has agreed to and WWTA had to agree to meet. So in addition to that, there are conversations that have to be had with Chattanooga as far as being able to take that flow, because they have their own issues and their own expenditures. And, and they're building a lot of tanks and stuff out there to try and, get ahead of the problem, but there's only so much you can do.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Please.
Actually, Mr. Stone says a question.
Well, if we're through with the really, really serious business, I have a surely nosy question about what's the most iconic, unusual point of I&I that you uncovered during the course of all the tests and studies.
Here,
Yeah, here.
really, actually, right here behind us, when I was doing the smoke testing, this would have been 2016, and just kind of the stormwater ditch over here, just behind us. It blew up. Everybody, and they call it the fire department, of course, they're right here. They all came right around, but yeah, the stormwater ditch over here was really
I guess it looked like you said.
Yeah, it looked like the entire ditch was on fire.
I know at one time, years and years ago, when the city was doing some I&I investigation, we had a storm drain up at the north end on a 2 or 3 acre parking lot. All the storm drains just started blowing up. And then some gas lines and the telephone pole and
Oh, boy.
proverbial hammer taps.
We did have a folder of sewer pets that I collected,
What?
watching all the videos.
Super
Yeah.
pets.
There's a fox, I think.
That's all.
Gets
I
into
mean,
the
it's just your
system, right?
nosiness on my part. But thanks.
Mayor, I do have a question and a comment. Comment first is, Commissioner Phillips, we are also aware it's Linden and Hawkins, as you tell, and a lot of Red Bank people went by and took a look. That's usually where the toilet paper starts running down the storm drain, if there's a real bad problem there. And it didn't happen this time. 5 inches of rain in about a 24-hour period, and
It's big, right?
their system and our stormwater system both performed as expected, which is a big relief. I do have a question, and this may not be the appropriate person to answer, but Stringer's Branch is signed as a, don't get in the water. So how does the city begin to link this work to getting, that dark cloud off of the city of don't touch the water and
Yeah, get it off the 303D list.
Mhm.
Is that what it is?
Yes. So I have to get it off
How do we
the
do that?
303D.
You have to get,
So you'll go through TDEC, they'll require various sampling, dry weather sampling, wet weather sampling, and you'll have to show them the BOD levels have gone down. And while, the sewer overflows contribute to that, but you also have homeowners with pets and things like that. And it's really hard to tell the difference between, what's human and what's pet.
It's all E. coli. Yeah.
Well, you can run tests, but it gets kind of, it gets a little fuzzy.
I mean, it's biological, it's not like chemical waste or,
Right,
yeah, it's
that's right.
basically sanitary sewer or pet waste. Who is responsible for doing that? Is it WWTA?
No, it'll be TDEC and the city,
The city.
if they have the MS4 system, so it'll be the MS4. And,
Well, we're, the MS4 is Hamilton County Waterfall.
and then you'll need,
We are MS4.
I'm pretty sure.
We are
City,
MS4.
Yeah, so it'd be you as the MS4 and working hand in hand with TDEC.
And Commissioner, Mayor, I'll just note that, both Michael and Scott and I were together, and we didn't know it, at Talil Air Base in Iraq in 2003 and 2004.
Oh, wow.
small world.
There was no working sewer system there.
I got one more comment. It's not really a question on them, but when I first went onto the board and we talked about expanding our sewer system, this is why I'm saying the comprehensive plan is going to be a must. They had no idea that we was wanting to maybe put sewer down Martin Road and down McKay Hill Road and all of that stuff, because we didn't have the staff and the people to talk to these people to tell them what we want to do. So they had no idea what we wanted to do. They just over here plugging holes in our pipes, literally. And so that if we want to do that, we got to kind of,
Be proactive.
we got to raise a flag up there so they can have a chance to salute it. And we just, I mean, this is why we need the plan. And I'm so excited how far we've come on this, but it's just one of those things that, you know, they don't get it by osmosis, right? We got to have staff members that we can be in there talking to these people that that we can get this headed, because this is a generational thing. This is you know, this is something my kids will probably have to deal with, you know. So
Ideally not.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'll add that your community development department is doing just exactly what Commissioner Phillips is alluding to, preparing to come to the commission when they're ready, not just yet, to have that conversation about appropriately expanding the areas of Red Bank that are currently not sewered.
Thank you. All right, any other questions for Mr. McDonald? Thank you so much,
Thank you.
all of you
Thank
for
all of you
joining
for
us
coming.
today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
thank you.
You too. All right, speaking of our community development department, our next presentation is about our TDOT resurfacing of Dayton Boulevard from the tunnel, the Cherokee Tunnel, to Signal Mountain Road. I'll welcome Mr. Pham.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I'll stick to my script for the first part, and then I'd love to speak freely if you have any questions or comments. You should have in front of you a couple of printed slides that are on the screens as well. So, good evening, Commissioners. Firstly, thank you so much to those who came to the small area workshop 2 Saturdays ago. One important goal as the Community Development Department is to see our community members sit down at the table and talk to each other. And you all did that. It was exactly what we saw. As a community planner, that's the dream job. So thank you for encouraging that. Tonight, I'm here to brief you on a TDOT project that the City of Red Bank and the City of Chattanooga have been working on together to provide suggestions for the resurfacing of a section of State Route 8. This section runs from Market Street on the North Shore, up Cherokee Boulevard, through Stringers Ridge Tunnel, and down Dayton Boulevard to the intersection at Signal Mountain Road. The project scope is to mill the existing surface, replace it with fresh asphalt, and paint new stripes. The scope does not include any areas outside of the TDOT right-of-way. I'd like to give some background and context for this project as we walk through these slides on the screen, and we can clarify any comments or questions after. In 2020, the City Commission adopted Resolution 201362, supporting the application to the TDOT Multimodal Access Grant in order to support the transportation needs of pedestrian, bicyclist, and transit users through infrastructure improvements along state routes. The application proposed expanded multimodal infrastructure along State Route 8 between the Stringers Ridge Tunnel and Signal Mountain Road. That grant was not awarded. In 2022, Red Bank again applied for the Multimodal Access Grant to expand multimodal transportation opportunities for the citizens of the community and the surrounding area. Again, this was a proposal to install multimodal infrastructure along State Route 8 between the Stringers Ridge Tunnel and Signal Mountain Road. And again, the grant was not awarded. In fall 2023, TDOT published its list of state routes to be resurfaced in 2025, which included State Route 8 between Market Street in the North Shore and Signal Mountain Road in Red Bank. Since that time, the City of Red Bank and the City of Chattanooga have been working together to utilize this resurfacing project to achieve the repeated efforts of improving safe transportation across both our cities. Furthermore, we believe this project is relevant to multiple goals that this commission and the previous commission have championed. Some of those goals are Commissioner Phillips' 2022 goal to develop a comprehensive plan. Our ongoing comprehensive plan has identified the Signal Mountain Road Dayton Boulevard intersection as an important node for our city. And this has been supported by many citizen comments at our community workshops that this intersection needs to be enhanced. Mayor Berry's 2023 and 2024 goal to improve multimodal transportation. Upon completion, this project will see the first exclusive bike lane in Red Bank. And Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey's 2024 goal to update entrances to the city. This project will create a consistent roadway plus multimodal access at the Stringers Ridge Tunnel and the Highway 27 Dayton Boulevard entrance to Red Bank. So the slides on the screen illustrate the third iteration that we have submitted to TDOT, and that was done last Friday. Their traffic engineering team hopes to finalize plans before Thanksgiving, so we may still receive feedback on the draft you see here, hence the large draft across the top. So I'll go ahead and start walking through these, starting at the Stringers Ridge Tunnel with north pointing to the left of the screen and east pointing to the top of the screen. Chattanooga is right-sizing Cherokee Boulevard to 3 lanes with a buffered bicycle lane on each side. After you come through the tunnel, you will see the road will maintain 1 vehicle lane for each direction of travel, a middle turning lane, and an exclusive bicycle lane on each side. The restriping of Ashmore Avenue will need to be a separate striping project executed by Red Bank. This intersection will see a major improvement in safety in that vehicles turning onto Dayton Boulevard from Ashmore Avenue will only have to navigate a 3-lane road rather than the existing 5-lane road. I'll also note that there's a middle lane there that will likely act as a refuge for turning vehicles. Also, this is the first of several sections that Red Bank will execute a companion project for striping. The Frontage, Elmwood, and Dayton intersection will similarly maintain 1 lane of travel in each direction, affording vehicles from Frontage a much safer transition onto Dayton. As Dayton crosses over the Norfolk Southern Railroad, the road maintains the exclusive bicycle lane, which transitions into a buffered bicycle lane as the road curves under the 27 off-ramp. And as you may know, this section is currently 4 lanes of high-speed traffic with no room for pedestrians or cyclists. This is a huge win for everyone there. After you cross under the 27 off-ramp, the road maintains the 2 lanes of vehicle travel in each direction, and the bicycle lane stays buffered on each side. You'll also notice that the bike lane in the Dayton southbound direction does cross the vehicle path that merges onto US 27 South. We'd like to see this portion of the road striped and painted to bring awareness to the mode mixing zone for cyclists and vehicles. City Greenway, Dayton Boulevard, and US 27 off-ramp has been clarified in this concept by striping a channel for a left turn into City Greenway and a striped channel for the left turn out of City Greenway. Also at this section, the bicycle lane on the east side of Dayton, or towards the top of the illustration, will cross the US 27 off-ramp into a buffered bike lane. This will be an additional Red Bank scope in order to implement traffic calming and safe bicycle merging. We have arrived at the South Gateway node of Red Bank. Northbound road geometry remains relatively unchanged, but with the addition of the bicycle lane. The most substantial change we'll see at this intersection is the southbound roadway geometry towards the left of the screen. The concept shows 1 exclusive left turn lane onto Spring Road, 1 lane traveling straight only towards the tunnel, and 1 lane turning right only onto Signal Mountain Road. This will not only sort and clarify vehicular traffic, but will also spare cyclists a mixing zone through the intersection, and instead grant them a buffered bike lane over to and beyond Waffle House. Please note that the limits of the TDOT resurfacing project end before the Dayton Boulevard southbound stop bar. This is where Red Bank will execute a separate scope of work to modify the mast arm signal and restripe the road. I would like to note that this project addresses one of the most accident-prone intersections in all of Red Bank. Please think of this as our first step towards improving this stretch of Dayton for all modes and taking advantage of an enormous lift on the part of Tennessee Department of Transportation. And while the base project scope presents huge improvements in vehicular travel, Red Bank has the opportunity to achieve multiple short and long-term goals. I'd also like to appreciate the outstanding working relationship between the City of Red Bank, the City of Chattanooga, and the engineering team at TDOT, as well as your leadership efforts to push improvements like gateways, multimodal, and comprehensive planning to the point where we can confidently propose projects like this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Pham.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions regarding our restriping project for our community planner?
Well, just one observation, there will not be any sidewalk or pedestrian connectivity with this project.
Not in the TDOT scope.
Not the TDOT scope. And to do that, we would have to, I mean.
We would be executing our own scope if we were installing sidewalks.
Okay. You just, yeah, I mean, because right there at that intersection right there, it's kind of like, well, you better be in a car. You know, that's the only safe way to get there.
Yeah, this will bring the potential, reasonably safe modes of travel up from vehicle only to vehicle and bicycle, but
Right.
It does not yet add sidewalk. But my understanding is that is because the whole reason we're able to tackle this project at all because, as Michael mentioned earlier, we've applied 3 times for a multimodal a grant for this segment of state route that would include sidewalk, and we have not been awarded that grant each time. But despite that, this is coming through because TDOT already had a repaving planned, and they were kind enough to ask us if we would like a different striping pattern in conjunction, because I have to restripe it anyways. when I
Well,
repave
and we have the staff member to go over and talk to the city so we can have something that continuous,
Yes.
continuous, what do you call that? The same feel,
Mhm.
right? It's the same thing. And we're not coming out of a 2-lane road, going to a 4-lane road, back to a 2-lane road.
In fact, it's worth noting that actually, when you go through the tunnel, Dayton Boulevard changes its name to Cherokee Boulevard.
Mhm.
And then when you cross Market Street, it changes its name again to
Mhm.
Fraser Avenue.
Mhm.
But those are all the same road. And the city of Chattanooga is already looking at a massive redesign multimodal project for Fraser Avenue on North Shore. And then here with this repaving, they're looking at continuing that 3-lane traffic pattern from Fraser, continuing all the way up Cherokee. And now this is our piece to take it through the tunnel to Signal Mountain Boulevard, which is again the limits of how far TDOT is going to go with their state route, with their repaving. So since this is a repaving and restriping, nothing outside of the roadway is being touched. My hope, and tell me, Michael, if you agree, is that once this is completed, maybe we would have even better standing to come back to TDOT again with another multimodal grant application, maybe for the sidewalk component at a future date.
I think so. And also, traffic calming, 3-laning is a form of traffic calming. And just by doing the 3-lane concept, we're opening up sides of the road that were once just vehicles. And so now we're basically asking them to relinquish that space for vehicles. We would like to do something else in the future. So.
And also with the buffered bike lane, then that provides much more separation between travel lanes for vehicles and where a sidewalk beside the road would potentially go, instead of having a sidewalk right beside a lane of travel with a few feet, from those cars whizzing by. You'd have 10 feet or more buffer. Ms. Johnson.
Right. I think I would just like to add that with all of the planning initiatives that have been taking place for the past 2-3 years, this does incorporate ideas from your mobility plan that was executed with this through a TDOT grant. When we finish our comprehensive plan, we're also doing a Dayton Boulevard study. All of that information will just help compile some solid information that TDOT and therefore any other grant application is going to want to see. What have you identified? What is your objective? And what is your community desire? So these pieces are just starting to come together to be pretty good applications for some future endeavor.
I have a couple of questions, just really quick. Just FYI, we've only applied for the multimodal grant twice, not 3 times. I just wanted to clarify that.
It's 3 times to my knowledge.
When did we apply a 3rd time?
2021,
applied
22,
once jointly. The last time was jointly.
Oh, the one with Chattanooga. I forgot about that one. Thank you for reminding me of that. Thank you.
We saw that till no.
Yeah, we did. We're getting there. 2 questions, just little questions. One, how are the bike lanes going to be buffered?
As of right now, it's just going to be stripes.
Wrong. And thank you for participating.
Jersey barriers.
Not allowed.
Red flag.
Michael, will you highlight by pointing on the screen what we mean? It's the white spacing bars there.
Channelization. Channelized bars.
That's when you uses the term buffered, it's those white.
Yeah.
Can you just point to, right there. Yeah, that's the buffer.
So TDOT doesn't install bollards, especially in the scope of resurfacing projects. Maybe in some other universe, I don't know. No, but in the resurfacing project, it's just striping and asphalt.
It's a buffer, not a barrier.
Okay. So not quite where we want to be ultimately, but on the way there. Okay. And then just a question about when you were talking about the painting on the road. Are we talking like colorful painting that is more high visibility than white paint?
As of right, the concept we're showing is obviously just green paint, which is
I didn't know if that was actually the color or if it was, okay. Okay,
Two
That's great,
quick,
thank
two
you.
quick questions. Can you address the speed limit? Will that remain the same or change to be lower?
I don't think that changing speed limits is part of the scope of resurfacing projects. I think automatically just the right sizing will cause people to slow down.
Okay. And then can you address timeline?
TDOT has said they want to put this out for bid in March 2025.
That's great. Yeah, and to tack on what Pete was saying earlier too, it's great that we have the staff bandwidth to engage with Chattanooga and, you know, partner on a project like this, you know, for some continuity through the whole length of the street. So I think that's very cool. And that this is hopefully going to be the first bike lane in Red Bank, which, you know, is kind of surprising, but in a place,
Better late than never.
maybe the place that needs it the most, honestly. Like it is
I agree.
seriously,
Most dangerous.
it is a seriously dangerous place to be if you're not in a car. So
Yeah, the TPO has done bike and ped counts, and obviously this intersection and Morrison Springs are the hottest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I regularly see people riding bikes and even walking
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
underneath that tunnel
Oh, yeah.
with no separation from vehicles whatsoever, and it makes my heart stop every time.
I've had some near misses there. You know, dark
Yes.
nights and somebody's coming around that curve on foot.
Yes. One of our commissioners is brave
Scary.
enough to do it on a bike, and one
I
of our,
choose not
at least
to.
one of our staff is two of our staff that I know of.
I was gonna say, well, he's young. He don't know, he don't know he's scared.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, may I make some comments?
Please.
I just wanted to echo, this is really representative of the investment the commission has made in the community development department, a planner. There's so many bits and pieces that got pulled together into this, to be factors of this, just an awareness, frankly, of the issues at Ashmore from a vehicle standpoint, trying to pull out, and turn right or left. And the issues of City Green, trying to pull out and turn right or left, bringing that into this conversation. And also, I lost my train of thought.
Not to mention a potential development, new development, in front of that storage unit.
Thank you, that was what I wanted to mention, ma'am. Actually, some of the required metrics came from that development. We used the traffic study that was required of that developer that fed into the metrics that allowed TDOT to green light this 390, because they wanted to know, the numbers. And we had the numbers because we had required them from that development project. So all these disparate parts were synthesized into a coherent plan from Signal Mountain, from the tunnel to Signal Mountain Boulevard. And it's just really a heavy lift where all those lines cross literally in Michael and Leslie in our community development department. So it's really a proud moment, and the relationship with Chattanooga, so that, from a driver, I mean, let's face it, if you're in the tunnel, you're driving both in Red Bank and Chattanooga, and on both sides of the tunnel, we're hand in glove with what we're doing. That's really a significant accomplishment for Red Bank.
Well, and Michael mentioned that this is the third iteration, and so I'm sure there's no small amount of staff hours invested into trying to make sure that this restriping comes out the best that it can for Red Bank.
Well, and as you say, it goes through the tunnel, but it's also going all the way to Market Street, really. And then from there on the next phase from Fraser Avenue,
Right.
So.
Mayor, I count at least 4 people in this room who bike this fully in both directions, that I can personally tell you have done this. So it's not an obscure thing that's what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions for Mr. Pham?
Well done.
Thank you very much for coming and presenting to us today and for
Did
all
you
your hard work.
say when we expect to hear back from them by?
They'd like to finalize plans before Thursday.
Okay,
I think educating the public and like share the road needs to be right there by Waffle House or City Green, because with that new bike path that's gonna cross, we're gonna have to slow down
Yes.
and be nice.
Maybe some billboards.
Maybe some good, whatever it takes.
Amen. Amen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
We only
Yeah.
have one more item on the agenda that is not on our next agenda.
no,
Mr.
there's 2.
Oh, there's 2 more? Oh, the pool condition. Okay.
Do you want to ask a comment?
Yeah. And then go back to it.
Continue.
Okay. This is normally the time where we break for resident comments for items on this work session agenda. Does anybody have any comments? Okay.
Okay.
If there are no more comments, I think we do really want to hear about these last two items that are not going to be at our 6 o'clock meeting. So our next item is our pool facility condition assessment discussion. Mr. Graby, welcome back.
Thank you. I will condense this so that it is the most informative it can be without taking up too much time. As you all know, our pool is quite old now. It's still a very popular recreational asset that we have in Red Bank, both with the Gator swim team, go Gators. If you're in the water, you're not a Gator, you're just Gator bait. And we also have a very high day use and season pass holders for the pool as well. We have a fantastic pool advisory committee that takes on the task of bringing on lifeguards, bringing in Ken Buchanan to run the Gators and to manage the facility and to keep it going, which is a huge asset for the city as a whole, especially this size, being able to offer an aquatic recreational facility. So with that, we want to plan for our future. And with the first step of that is doing a pool aquatics assessment, also known in the industry as an audit. So we are looking at the pool, its structures, finishes, piping, fitting, filtration systems, etc. And this company will be able to come in and put together a whole presentation for us in a packet of what it would take for us to patch the pool together so that it would have another lifespan of another 5 years, what that cost would be. They would also be able to give us what the cost to renovate the facility there would be, and then also give us a cost of what it would be to redo a whole entire new pool. And that way we can bring all of that information to commission to decide what we want to do with our recreational aquatic facility for the future, and what we'll put on our capital improvements plan. So they'll be able to, again, help us figure out how much life does it have left right now as is, what amount of money would we have to put in just to extend that for another couple of years, what would it take to renovate everything right there, and then what would it cost to replace the pool as a whole there or in another location, so that it can give us the best data-driven decision-making powers to know what we're going to do with our aquatics facility to keep that recreational amenity here in Red Bank.
Okay.
So that's the quick and the dirty. Do you guys have any questions?
So are you just kind of letting us know what that process looks like, and then there's potentially going to be a resolution to cover the cost of this assessment, or what?
Great question. Thank you for bringing that background. So we actually had already budgeted this item for this year's budget for FY25, and it will be under the amount. Yeah, it would be under the $10,000 amount that we would need to bring it for resolution. So this is more of an informative. We've gone out and already gotten 3 bids. We are working right now with our city attorney to go through the contract with Councilman Hunsaker, which is the form that you have in front of you of the services that they'll provide. And once we get the contract to where it needs to be and our city attorney says that it looks good, so that we have the best interest of the city in mind at all times, then we'll be able to go ahead and execute this and get this project going.
Okay. Is this going to be integrated or folded into our Parks and Rec master plan once complete?
Yes, so this is one of the items it's the first item for this facility, and its short term is to get a facility condition assessment done so that we can decide what we need to put into the capital improvements plan for moving forward. And that way, if we do get to a point, an end of life cycle for this facility, that we have a plan before we get to that point.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Graby?
So it's the audit that's budgeted in the.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So either way you want to call it a pool condition assessment or a pool audit, it's the same meaning, but we're not looking into the financials of the pool. We're looking into the actual the facility and the conditions of that.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graby.
Thank you.
All right, last item, election media blitz discussion only. Mr. Granum.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. My message this afternoon is to remind everyone to vote for 2 in the City of Red Bank municipal election this November 5th. You may recall that the commission addressed this new commissioner election procedure on December 5th, 2023, and again on March 5th and March 19th, 2024. Anyone interested in all that went into this change are invited to review those YouTube recordings as well as review ordinance number 24-1256. Accordingly, please know the voting procedures for commissioners in Red Bank have changed. And I have before me a sample ballot, and they're available back there in the back as well. And we did take the liberty of highlighting a key part, and that is the vote for 2. So on the this is the whole ballot, and there's a City of Red Bank municipal portion, and we're highlighting the vote for 2 language that's there. All commissioners are now elected at large, eliminating the previous system of 3 commissioners representing a specific district. In the upcoming election, all candidates' names will be listed on the ballot, and the top 2 candidates with the highest number of votes will be elected. How do I vote? To vote, you must darken the oval to the right of your choice. To cast a write-in vote for a person whose name is not on the ballot, you must darken the oval to the right of the line provided and write that name in the blank space. And I didn't know that. I thought you just wrote a name in, but you must darken the oval. Key point there, darken the oval. Darken 2 ovals is my message. You can now vote for 2 candidates of your choice. If only one candidate is selected, the ballot will be approved. And that's called an undervote. If more than 2 is selected, the ballot will be denied, or it will be a spoiled ballot. And you will be given a chance to correct that spoiled ballot. In our procedure, you hand the ballot, it's fed into the machine, and it is, if it's rejected or spoiled, it will be handed right back to you, and you will be given up to 3 chances to correct whatever is causing that ballot to be spoiled.
Brief point of clarification. You do feed the ballot into the machine yourself.
Yes,
no
correct.
one else should ever touch your ballot.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. I appreciate that correction, Mayor. Yes, it's important that we get this right, and the poll workers know how to handle it. And we have asked, and the Elections Commission has indicated that they will instruct their poll workers to point this out to Red Bank voters in our 3 precincts, and I'll get to that in just a minute, that this is new. Usually you would have a race for 1 seat, and so there would be opponents for that 1 seat. So this is new, voting for 2 names, and the reality is however many seats are on the ballot. So presumably not this election, but the next election will be 3 seats. So there'll be 3 votes, but that's for next time. Red Bank polling locations, Red Bank A, Disabled American Veterans Chapter 6, 619 Memorial Drive. Red Bank B, Joe Glasscock Community Center, 3620 Tom Weathers Drive. Red Bank C, Calvary Baptist Church, 5201 Dayton Boulevard. Understand what IDs are acceptable. Any of the following IDs may be used, even if expired. Tennessee driver's license with your photo, United States passport, photo ID issued by the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security, photo ID issued by the federal or Tennessee state government, United States military photo ID, Tennessee handgun carry permit with your photo. First-time voters who register by mail or using online voter registration, if the ID is expired, the voter must also present one of the following: a copy of a current utility bill, bank statement, government check, paycheck, or other government document that shows the voter's name and address. Early voting for the November 5th state and federal general election begins October 16th and runs through October 31st. For more information, visit govotetn.gov or elect.hamiltontn.gov. And I'll just cap it off by saying, remember, vote for 2. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Cranham. All right, any questions on the voting procedure? Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn our work session. Does anybody need a brief break before we convene our 6 o'clock meeting? Okay, if everybody's good, then we'll roll right into our next meeting.